Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today, April 25th, Audit Committee meeting, and we're going to get started here with roll call.
Committee member Edwin Belen.
Here.
Ed Kashadurian is absent. Jack Mavian.
Present.
Tom O'Shaughnessy is absent. And Chair Alex Parajon.
Present. Next item.
Item number 2, business agenda. Part 2A, report of recording secretary regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the April 25, 2024 Audit Committee meeting was posted on April 18, 2024 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And we have item 3.
Item number 3, oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes. The committee may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The Audit Committee Chair may refer the matter to staff for investigation and report.
And we have no cards here or any phone calls, so let's move on to the next item.
Item number 4, approval of minutes. Part A, minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on January 25, 2024.
Anyone has a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes.
Need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Committee member Edwin Belen.
Here.
Ed Kashadurian is absent. Jack Mavian.
Present.
Tom O'Shaughnessy is absent. And Chair Alex Parajon.
Approved. All right, next item.
Item number 5, action items.
There are none, right? No action items, so move on to the next.
Item number 6, reports information. 6A, internal audit activity report as of March 31st, 2024. Natalie Manami Valdivia, Principal Internal Auditor.
Thank you very much, Ani. Good afternoon, Chair Parajon and fellow Audit Committee members. I'm happy to present to you the Internal Audit Activity Report for the quarter ending March 31st, 2024. I will walk you through each of the 7 sections, beginning with the projects completed. For this past quarter, we completed 1 contract compliance audit. The Beeline Fixed Route Transit Services Agreement audit was completed, and I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation to walk you through this audit. Sorry. All right. Just to give you a bit of background, the Public Works Department Transit Division administers the Beeline Fixed Route Transit Service Agreement with MV Transportation to operate 12 fixed routes that move people around the city of Glendale, parts of La Crescenta, Montrose, and La Cañada Flint Ridge in a safe, enjoyable, and timely manner. The agreement was executed on July 1st, 2015, and had an initial term of 6 years with 2 one-year options with a not-to-exceed limit of approximately $60 million. Since the inception of this agreement, we have had 5 contract amendments that expanded the transit services and extended the agreement to July 31st, 2024, and has a revised not-to-exceed limit that was increased to approximately $74 million. The purpose of this audit was to identify whether or not there were adequate controls in place to ensure that the contractor's compliance with the agreement provisions and Transit Division's proper administration of the agreement. The scope of this audit covered fiscal year 2023. In order to accomplish our objectives, the audit process included reviewing the agreement, which included the request for proposal, the contractor policies and procedures, and other information such as the third-party bus inspection reports. We also interviewed Transit Division and contractor personnel to learn more about the operations and contract management processes. And we performed detailed test work on third-party vehicle inspections and repair documentation, required minimum staffing and coverage, certifications, bus driver fingerprint and background checks, and then also the contractor invoices to verify their compliance with the agreement terms. So based on our audit, we identified 8 improvement opportunities that I have categorized into 4 general categories, including farebox revenue, bus inspections, staffing, and invoices. So I'll walk you through each of the categories, beginning with audit result category 1, which includes observation number 1 and was related to the farebox revenues. So let me start by sharing a bit about the farebox revenue process. So after the buses have completed their routes and they've returned to the transit yard on a daily basis, the buses are pulled into the fueling station where they are probed for farebox information. And then once the farebox information has been downloaded, the farebox is unlocked and the contents, a self-contained cash box is available to be removed from the bus and then deposited into a vault through a closed system. And when I say a closed system, meaning it is a locked box that has to be inserted into the vault, and at no time does staff have access to its contents. However, on occasion, due to mechanical issues, the farebox may not open and prevents the revenue from physically being moved from the farebox into the vault and ultimately deposited into the bank. The contractor's employee completes a checklist, so they will identify which buses they've probed, as well as which buses they were able to remove the cash box from, and those that, due to mechanical issues, they were not able to remove the cash boxes from. So then on a monthly basis, the contractor performs a reconciliation of the farebox revenue by day, and in this reconciliation, they compare the farebox revenue report to the revenue deposited into the bank. So based upon our review, we noted that the farebox revenue reports and probing logs are not provided to Public Works Transit Division staff for their review. The reconciliation does not include a field to account for the variance resulting from the farebox revenues downloaded but not deposited within the vault. There is no mechanism that exists to verify the number of fare boxes deposited into the vault, and then the city's 5 newest buses were not equipped with fare boxes. So our recommendations included requesting the contractor to provide all the farebox revenue reconciliation supporting documentation, including the probing logs, and then also the farebox revenue report. Requesting the contractor to list revenue reported within the daily farebox route summary reports that could not physically be removed from the bus fare boxes within the reconciliation. Determining the feasibility of procuring a fare box vault that would enable the contractor to confirm the count of the daily fare boxes deposited, and reviewing the reconciliation for completeness and accuracy, including confirming the fare boxes listed as unable to probe agree to the daily probe log, and that those fare boxes have corresponding work orders for their repairs. The last one, as I mentioned, the last one is to equip the newest buses with the fare boxes. The second audit category includes observation number 2 and is related to the third-party bus inspections. So in accordance with our contract provisions, the city has hired a third-party vendor to perform quarterly B-line bus maintenance inspections. So during each quarterly review, 12 to 13 buses are selected for inspection. And so over a course of a year, all 54 buses are inspected by the vendor at least once. Additionally, on an annual basis, the California Highway Patrol performs an inspection of the bus terminal and the B-line buses. According to the third-party inspection reports that we reviewed, there were 25 Class A safety defects and 1 CHP safety violation found on 22 buses inspected. Internal audit requested and reviewed the work order copies for the defect repairs and noted that 4 defects on 4 buses were repaired within 2 weeks of the inspection. However, based on a review of the documentation for the buses, it appears that 3 of the 4 buses were not taken out of service before the repair was completed. We also noted that there were 22 defects on 18 buses that did not have completed work orders to document the repair of the defects identified. But based on our discussion with Public Works Transit staff, the contractor's mechanics are on site at the time of the inspections and generally perform immediate repairs at the time of the inspections. So there were cases that we believe that the repairs were not captured in work orders and the repair dates could not be verified. So in response to our audit inquiry, the contractor actually had their staff, they brought additional staff out to perform and inspect all the vehicles and all the defects that had previously been identified and retroactively document their defect repairs. So our recommendations included that we ensure that Public Works Transit ensure that the buses are immediately taken out of service for safety defects and that the repairs are documented timely, and that the process for taking buses out of service for safety defects and returning the buses back to service after the repairs are completed be documented, and also to ensure that the contractor follow its post-audit procedures, including repair documentation and progress update reporting to Public Works Department Transit. So of these recommendations, as of the close of our audit, Public Works Transit has completed ensuring that the buses are being removed immediately when the defects are identified, and they have already established a process where they send a list of all the identified defects and request to the contractor, and then the contractor provides the applicable work orders for each of the items identified. Audit result category number 3 includes observations 3, 4, and 6 and is related to staffing. So our detailed test work identified that minimum staffing, certification, fingerprinting, and background check requirements were not consistently met. Additionally, it was noted upon the award of the Dial-A-Ride contract, the city and contractor consolidated its maintenance and operations staffing, but did not formally document the updated staffing agreement. So our recommendations included documenting the agreed-upon changes to the minimum staffing requirements, reviewing the contractor provided staffing schedules to ensure that they're meeting the minimum requirements, and establishing liquidated damages for extended vacancies. Also reviewing the contractor employee certifications to ensure that the required certifications are acquired and maintained, or amending the certifications required within the agreement. And the last one was enforcing the fingerprint and background check requirement. The last category, the category 4, includes observations number 5, 7, and 8, and it's related to the invoices. The Public Works Department Transit Division, they have done a great job. They proactively created a liquidated damages checklist. So they went through the contract and they created a checklist and referenced the contract term. They provided a brief description of the liquidated damages, and then they identified the necessary fields to calculate and assess the applicable liquidated damages. But based on our review, we noted that the liquidated damage checklist was missing 5 of 21 performance standards and contained some errors in the terms and or assessments, and didn't consistently agree to the supporting documentation, and was not consistently assessed or consistently communicated to the contractor when liquidated damages were waived. The contractor's invoicing practices also did not agree to the agreement terms, allowing for invoices to be submitted no more than monthly intervals. But this was actually as a result of the continuance of a payment practice that was established in the prior contract, where the contractor was permitted to submit a monthly progress payment in exchange for a percentage discount off of the monthly invoice. The last observation was that pass-through invoice supporting documentation was not electronically submitted as supporting documentation to the contractor's invoice, so rather it was separately routed to the Transit Division in its monthly reporting packet, which just made it more difficult to verify the pass-through expenses on the final invoice. So our recommendations for this was that they update the liquidated damages checklist by reviewing and updating it, reviewing the contract and ensuring that it's complete and accurate, and that all supporting documentation agrees to the information entered into the liquidated damage checklist, that they document and communicate, they document the assessment of each liquidated damage and communicate all instances where the contractor may have fallen short of the performance indicators established, and then including those instances where the liquidated damages were waived. Also, reviewing the invoicing practice and determining whether to enforce the agreement terms or amend the agreement to match practice, and to require supporting documentation for the pass-through expenses to be submitted electronically with the invoice. So as of the close of this audit, they also completed updating the liquidated damages checklists. So they've already gone through and updated to ensure that all of the information is included, and have agreed to review and update it with the new agreement that is due to commence August 1st. This contract ends July 31st, 2024. And they will implement a methodology to document the waived liquidated damages. And they have already evaluated the invoicing terms, and for the next contract, they've eliminated the monthly progress payment. So this concludes my presentation. I'd like to take this time to thank Public Works personnel for their assistance throughout this audit, and I know that Martha DeAndrea, the transit manager, and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for the great detailed report. And I want to see if Commissioner Belan has a question.
Yes. I wanted to better understand the fare box process. So there were a couple of situations where the fare box couldn't be physically removed. I wanted to understand what happens when that is the case. And then I wanted to understand how the reconciliation between the physical fare happens. What is it being reconciled to?
Thank you for your questions. So I guess the first one is the documents that the documents that are being used to reconcile, or actually, let me start with the how the fare box revenue is collected. So let me see if I can get there quickly. So basically, I know this is not a great picture, but it was the best picture that I could find. So when you go into the transit yard, there is within the fueling station, there is this probe. It basically is on a long cord, and they pull it into the bus, and they connect it to the fare box system to download the information. And then this is actually what the fare box looks like, and then the cash box that is removed from the fare box from this portion of the fare box. These are removed, and as you can see, it's locked. And then this last picture over to the right is the vault system. So this is it's inserted into this top portion, and they're able to release the contents of this cash box into this vault. And then the vault is stored in a secure location and then counted by the contractor staff. I have also, this is a copy of the a sample of the daily fare box probe log. So as you can see, vehicle or bus numbers, it looks like 57, 58. The ones that are listed here, they were able to be opened. So these are the ones that actually came into the transit yard. These ones that are checked as open were able to be released and inserted into the vault, whereas it looks like 71 and 75 were not able to be removed. So in that case, the fare box revenue report, because it was downloaded, is going to show extra revenue that will not actually hit our bank account for that particular day.
Right. So when the fare box can't be physically removed and agreed to the system printout, what happens? It just sits there forever, or does it eventually get taken out the next day, or what happens?
Right, and that's why we're saying that they should immediately create a work order so that it can be repaired, so that it can be removed the next day. And they do have spare buses, so they can send out other buses in place of that vehicle the next day. And then, so here is a copy or a portion, example of their fare box reconciliation. So on a daily basis, they go through and they list how much hit their bank account, as well as how much was reported as revenue within the fare box revenue report. And as you can see in the comments, they do also indicate which ones were unable to be probed or unable to be removed and deposited.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mavian?
It looks like there was a pool of 12 buses, if I'm correct, from the report there, and 2 of which were not able to be opened.
There are actually more than 12 buses that go out on a daily basis because for presentation purposes, I wasn't able to put the entire report up there.
Oh, I understand. I was referring to just for the sample purposes.
Yes.
I believe those 12 buses were sampled for this presentation period, and 2 of them were not able to open. I just did some quick accounting there.
Right.
So I just curious, do we have any operating procedures for opening the boxes, or sort of like dual custody, for instance? Are there any procedures in place for removal?
So my understanding is that when after the fare box data is downloaded, the fare box system automatically unlocks that portion that allows us to remove the cash box. So if it's jammed or there's a mechanical issue, there is no other way to open that cash box. So we would have to wait for a work order to have it repaired in order to remove the contents. It's not, and it's also not a dual control because it's a self-contained unit that is locked, so they can't get into the contents of there, and they would need a key in order to open that particular cash box.
Okay. I was just making reference to dual custody, not just to ensure that nothing is removed. I'm not insinuating that it has been. Just in general, practices would require when you're handling public funds or funds in general, private funds, to have some sort of dual custody, just to ensure. Are there any procedures in place to ensure no theft or any tampering?
I guess
in those
other
situations?
other than it being a self-contained system and needing a key to unlock it, I don't know if it would be, what other options they would have to open.
No, I'm just trying to get an understanding of when this occurs.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Anything to turn on here, but Martha D'Andrea, Transit Manager for Beeline and Dial-A-Ride Services. Everything is like when the fare box comes and they remove it, they place it into another sealed, what do they call it?
Receptacle, the vault,
Oh, yeah,
basically.
vault. And then they move that into the counting room, which has cameras and a locked door. So when it's counting, I can actually see from my desk when they're actually doing the counting. So.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question in regards to those 5 buses that had no fare boxes. So folks driving, just going for free in there?
Going for free. Update, though. The reason our equipment is very old, and so we have grant funding to purchase. In fact, we're going to council probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks with a report to purchase a whole new fare boxes for our entire fleet. So including the auxiliary components, the vaults and the probes. So in the meantime, we were able to find 20 model fare box similar to ours that are actually newer. We just received them today from Dayton, Ohio. And so we will be installing, first order of business is to install those fare boxes on the 5 that don't have them, and then actually replace those fare boxes that have had issues. So hopefully we can make the process better and that we can collect the fares that we are due.
Now, is there a report status there as to how much these various routes that we have around the city, that they're utilized based on our, compared to what we're spending on these? Are these like trying to say is, are they being used, or is it just pretty much people just driving? Because, I mean, you see more cars than it is using public transportation out here.
So we are probably about 75% back to pre-pandemic levels, and it's increasing every month. So we anticipate getting to our pre-pandemic level probably in at least the next year, if everything goes well. We have a new route, as Natalie was mentioning. We had an expansion. That's where those 5 buses that didn't have the fare boxes came from. And so, we're watching that. And we're also doing another comprehensive operational analysis that a consultant will come out and look at our routes, look at where our new regional transit services, the new BRT that's coming through, make sure that we are connecting to that, make sure that we are connecting with Metro service as well as Metrolink. So that analysis will take about a year. There'll be plenty of outreach. So we're going to try to make sure that our routes are in the best places they should be.
And are those the B lines? Are those owned by the city, or is it owned by MV Transportation?
Right. No, they are owned by the city, and they operate out of a city facility. We built a B-line bus maintenance facility.
Okay. And with having all those, so we have a total of how many right now in the city?
How many buses?
Yeah.
We have 41 buses, and we also operate the La Cunada shuttle, which is another 3 that are maintained at the facility.
And the fare box works a lot better than having an outside kiosk system?
It does. So the fare box, we're required by the federal government to accept cash. There's a couple options. You can go free fare, which is why Dayton gave us those fare boxes. They went free fare, pulled out all that equipment. But for now, we need the revenue in order to make sure that we can provide service. So,
Great. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. The goal, obviously, is to have service for the residents of the city. But is there like a secondary goal in terms of like breaking even? So you talk about you need the revenue to operate. Has there ever been something stated?
at least Transit United States does not break even. If you were in a dense area, like in a European city. But so most of our funding comes from our local sales tax measure. Every time you purchase, there's an extra 2 cents, as we say, 4.5-cent sales taxes. The first two, Proposition A, the first one that was passed, was specifically for public transit. C can be used. All the others, Proposition C, Measure M, and Measure R, can all be used for public transit.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
It sounds like the trajectory is coming right back up. When was the B-line service put back? When was it put back in service post-COVID?
We never stopped running because we wanted to make sure we could make sure our frontline workers could get to work.
So roughly, safe estimate, it would be May of, when lockdowns, to get an accurate reading, May of 2021, and
Yes.
we're at 75% post
Yeah.
that time.
Yes.
So it seems like the trajectory is moving towards
Yes.
going above pre-pandemic levels in a very short time.
That's the hope. We have a few initiatives that we're implementing. One is we'll be installing contactless fare payment readers. So we have the regional fare, which is TAP, and then we'll have the ability for somebody that doesn't have a TAP card to also pay just like you would at a Starbucks for a cup of coffee. So it'll be contactless fare payment. And the other thing is we're upgrading our bus stops to include a shelter and shade or other bus amenities to attract riders that way. And then we just launched a climate mobility app, Glendale Climate Mobility app. And it's to show residents and workers who are here in the Glendale area what their GHG reductions are, so that they can see that, they see what your reductions are, and then it's like all of us together, so you can kind of see, like, just a little bit actually makes a difference. So I encourage you guys all to download that if possible. And to use, I mean, this is a great resource, and we just want to make sure people use it because we're paying for it, so.
Will these buses eventually have a mechanism where there's an app that folks can see when the bus is arriving?
We have so all of this came from a grant that we received, not only to buy electric buses, but all these initiatives to increase ridership. And so the technology piece is big. We're going to change out our current, was called NextBus, now it's called UMO. So we'll be going out for a new AVL system, and it'll be hopefully more accurate. And so that, yes, we plan to improve that. And again, right now, it is in the app, the Climate Mobility app. So if you plan a trip on there, you can see what your choices are at what time the bus is going to arrive.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it.
What is the app's name?
It's called Glendale Climate Mobility, and it's on both the Apple and the Android stores.
That's okay, great. So it sounds like you guys have a great plan of action to keep the 22 out of 44 going and running.
Yes.
Trajectory is up. Just one more question. Do we have a breakdown of age or demographics of riders?
So I can only speak to what we had in the last comprehensive operational analysis. And the majority of our riders are students and seniors. So
Perhaps are you guys doing any advertising in schools or?
yeah, we're gonna hit the schools, especially with the app, trying to get
You
folks to-
guys have a great plan in place, sounds like.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you for keeping Glendale Mobile out there and providing this to the community. Great, no more questions?
I had one more question for Natalie. So on the 18 defects, there were 22 and 18 didn't have completed work orders, but I'm confused as to, was there a population of defects, they just never resolved them? Or they resolved them without filling out the forms? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So based on our interviews with Public Works transit staff, it sounds as though they were actually repaired at the time that the defects were identified. And so as I mentioned, they did go back in order to provide us the documentation and had extra staff come out to help basically verify that those safety defects had been repaired. So I believe that basically the report said that they were repaired as of that date, even though the work orders were completed later.
In other words, maybe my question is, there's a list of defects.
Right.
But they just didn't disposition them. They fixed them, they just never did the documentation to
Right, so
support
it
that
was
they fi-
documented in the report, but then they didn't complete a work order
Got it.
a work order to address that issue and repaired it, so it wasn't documented.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, no other questions, so let's move on to the next. All right, last one.
Sorry, last one, I promise. Again, just so I could get an idea, how many of the 22 defects were attributed to safety? Is there a count on that?
All of these defects were attributed to safety, and
Okay.
based on the contract, should have been removed from service until they were repaired.
Okay, so it sounds like some good folks repaired it and did not document it.
Because the
in right
documentation
order.
wasn't
Okay.
completed.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. So then I'll move on to the second section, which is projects in progress. So for the quarter ending March 31st, 2024, internal audit has 2 projects in progress. The first one is the records management system audit for FileNet. And the purpose of this audit is to determine if there were adequate controls in place to ensure that the record management system is providing the functionality needed by its users, and to ensure that the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the system and its associated contents. The scope of this audit will also broadly include record retention policies. The second audit, and actually, so I guess as an update, Ani has been working very diligently on completing this audit, and we anticipated that it will be completed by the end of this quarter. The second project that is in progress is the PCI compliance audit, and this is the second of 3 audits that will be performed for this fiscal year. And the objective or purpose of this audit is the ongoing compliance, to ensure the ongoing compliance with the city's policies related to the PCI payment card industry data security standards, PCI DSS, including the departmental procedures. So we actually completed the field work for this audit, and this audit is in draft report phase, so we anticipate that this audit will also be completed shortly. For section number 3 is the continuous auditing. So we completed 2 continuous audits for this past quarter. The first one was the user access controls Active Directory audit. So basically, we were comparing, as of February 22nd, 2024, the Active Directory users to the active employee listing, and ensuring that separated, so basically ensuring that there are no Active Directory users for terminated employees, and then also making sure that separated employees are disabled in a timely manner. So the test results for this continuous audit were shared with Information Technology Department on February 26th, and corrections were made as of March 4th, 2024. The second continuous audit that we completed was the double dipping audit, and this test covered fiscal year 2023, and it verified that basically the employee's procurement card expenses were not also processed through the employee expense reimbursement process. So Ani's review included approximately 16,000 P-card transactions and 4,000 employee expense transactions. So there was one exception that was identified and communicated to the affected department on March 4th, 2024. Section 4 is related to outstanding audit items. So I am happy to report, with the assistance of the city departments, we were able to close 17 audit recommendations this quarter, and this is the most closed audit recommendations we've seen in the past few years. So we appreciate all the department's hard work in making this happen. And we'd especially like to commend the Public Works Department for implementing 6 audit recommendations, and the Fire Department for implementing 5 audit recommendations. In summary, our audit follow-up included 14 projects with a total of 61 audit items. The city departments implemented 17 audit recommendations, and we had 1 that was partially implemented, and we have 43 remaining that remain outstanding as of the quarter end. Section 5, outstanding priority 1 audit items. For the quarter ending March 31st, 2024, there was 1 outstanding item with a priority 1 risk ranking, and this was carried over from previous quarters. This item is related to the business registration certificate audit, and CDD continues to work with information technology to categorize the expired BRCs, and we're anticipating that this item will be completed by June 30th, 2024. Section 6, outstanding audit items that meet audit committee discussion criteria. So as you all know, based on the passage of resolution number 2 by the audit committee, we request that city department directors appear to discuss any outstanding items when one of 3 events occur. The first being when a determination is made to change the status of an audit item. to not implemented, when an item has not been implemented within 2 years of the report date, and then finally, when the item has not been implemented within 3 years of the report date. So for the period January 1st through March 31st, 2024, there were a total of 6 items that entered one of these 3 categories. So there were 3 related to the fire department's emergency medical services revenue recovery audit, and then there were 3 that were related to the tennis concession agreements audit. As I mentioned, the fire department made great progress in implementing their recommendations. For this emergency medical services revenue recovery audit, there were a total of 13 audit recommendations, and they implemented 10 out of the 13. There is the one item that meets the criteria of not being implemented actually had 6 subparts, and they implemented 5 of those subparts. But there was one portion that could not be implemented that related to reconciling the computer-aided dispatch medical calls to the electronic patient care reports. The other 2 related Glendale Fire Department Emergency Medical Services Revenue Recovery Audit recommendations related to updating medical supply and medical charges and the reclassification of mutual aid revenue that are outstanding as of the 2-year mark, but are anticipated to be implemented shortly. The remaining 3 audit recommendations are related to the tennis concession agreements audit for Glorietta and the Fremont locations. Both of these, I guess I should say the Glorietta contract is due to expire at the end of February of 2025, and then currently the Fremont location is under construction and expected to be reopened around that same time frame. So the recommendations were related to requiring the concessionaires to utilize a reservation software to facilitate the verification of the revenue receipts, and conducting a benchmark study to ensure that the city fees were in line with the current market rate, and also performing a cost-benefit study to determine if the administrative costs of reviewing the payments received outweigh the net sharing payments. So these recommendations were anticipated to be incorporated into the new contract, so they are anticipated to be included within the RFP that should be coming out shortly, and included within the contracts that are anticipated to commence in early 2025. So I know that we have Chief Fish and Onig Bulanikian and Gabrielle Goglia here in attendance to answer any questions that you might have.
Anyone has any questions? No? No questions?
Terrific. Then we'll move on to Section 7, Advisory Services. Internal Audit continues to participate on 3 committees or teams. These include the City Treasurer's Investment Policy Advisory Committee and the PCI Compliance Team, as well as GWP's Energy Risk Management Committee. This concludes my report for the quarter. I'm here to answer any questions.
Well, the fire chief is leaving now. We're going to ask questions. Just kidding. Just kidding. Bye. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
No, we have no questions. I think we're just waiting for these audits to be completed when they're ready. So we'll just wait on them. But thank you for this great, detailed, informative report.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All that you guys are working on. So appreciate your team's efforts.
Thank you.
All right. So next item.
Item number 7, Audit Committee staff comments.
All right. Anyone has any comments?
No.
None from our end here? Of the staff? None? All right. Move on.
Item number 8, New Business.
Any new business? Well, we do have a new business, right? Bonnie? Swani, will you be at their next meeting? Or will
I
you be on
think
leave?
Natalie might have to cover the next meeting
Oh, okay. Well,
alone.
Maybe that has to do with so many audit items.
Yeah.
well, we wish you a
Yes.
great
Healthy
healthy baby
Thank
there.
you.
And,
Yes.
congratulations to you and your family.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 9, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Well, someone's supposed to motion it. All right. I can't motion.
Third.
All right. Third. All right. Roll call. We need roll call on that?
No.
No? No roll call? Okay. Adjourn.